She was sobbing behind the counter, her trembling hands covered in flour when he walked in. A stranger in a tailored suit, the kind that didn't belong in a rundown neighborhood bakery on the verge of shutting down. His eyes scanned the room, not with judgment, but with recognition, as if he had been here before, as if he'd lost something here too. What happens when a billionaire with a secret past walks into the life of a woman who's about to lose everything? What if his visit isn't just coincidence, but destiny? This isn't your typical love story. It's a story of betrayal, of hidden motives, of redemption, and of a woman who refuses to surrender even when her world is crumbling. But how far would you go to protect your family's legacy? Especially when the only man who offers to save it might be the very one trying to take it away? Before you judge him, before you trust her, ask yourself what really brought him back to that small-town bakery. Stay with us, because nothing in this story is as simple as it seems. And the truth, it might just break your heart or restore your faith in it. Are you ready to find out? The soft jingle of the bakery bell seemed almost cruel that morning, like a lullaby at a funeral. Emma Lawson stood behind the counter of Lawson's Hearth, her family's tiny bakery, tucked between looming skyscrapers in Savannah, Georgia. Her eyes, still glassy from the tears she thought she'd wiped clean, scanned the quiet street. The world moved on as if her entire life wasn't collapsing behind a thin sheet of glass. Her hands trembled as she reread the rejection letter for the third time. Does not meet the requirements for commercial financing. The words burned like acid. It was the third denial in 6 months, and just hours ago, she'd received the final blow, an official notice that the building had been purchased by a private real estate conglomerate. The bakery would be vacated within 30 days. What would she tell her mother if her mother were still alive? 25 years old, still kneading dough like a fool? Emma muttered under her breath, slipping the letter into the pocket of her flour-dusted apron. For 10 years since her mother's passing, Emma had poured her soul into keeping the bakery alive. While other girls were dating, traveling, earning degrees, she had been scraping together enough to keep the ovens warm and the lights on. And for what? So it could all be bought out by some faceless millionaire? You should have married a lawyer sweetheart. Her Aunt Carol had said that morning, tossing her a half-hearted smirk. This business thing, it's cute, but it's time you let go. Emma clenched her jaw, staring at the cinnamon rolls on the tray. Her mother's recipe, the same recipe that once won the city's Best Heritage Pastry Award. But legacy didn't pay rent. Nostalgia didn't beat capitalism. And dreams. Dreams weren't enough, the door chimed again. Emma wiped her eyes swiftly and turned toward the customer with a practiced smile. Good morning. The words froze. Standing at the door was a man in a charcoal gray suit tailored to perfection. He had the kind of presence that made time slow. His sapphire blue eyes scanned the bakery with calm precision, and something about his gaze made Emma's heart stutter. There was power in his posture, money in the way he wore that watch, and yet there was something in his eyes that didn't match the suit. Something haunted Emma Lawson, he asked in a voice smooth as bourbon. Yes, she answered cautiously. I'm Christopher Grant, representative for Monarch Ventures. I believe you've received our acquisition notice. So this was him. The vulture come to circle her dreams? Emma's shoulders squared as anger surged past her grief. You're here to measure how long I've got before you bulldoze this place into another condo complex. Chris blinked, more surprised than offended. Actually, he said after a pause, I came for the cinnamon rolls. I heard they're legendary. Emma laughed bitterly. Sorry, but we're sold out. Chris glanced at the tray behind her. Then what are those? She followed his gaze and winced 3 cinnamon rolls she'd baked that morning out of sheer muscle memory. Her instinct screamed to hold the line, to deny him a taste of her legacy. But then again, maybe it was the only piece of it she had left to offer. They're $3 each, she said, her voice tight. Cash only. Chris pulled out a crisp $50 and placed it on the counter. Keep the change, he said. Before she could argue, he took a roll and bit into it. What happened next shocked her. His eyes closed slowly, his jaw moved with reverence. And then for just a second, Emma saw it. The mask slip. The businessman faded and the man behind him appeared vulnerable and oddly human. This tastes like home, he said softly. Emma felt her breath hitch. There was something in the way he said it that stirred an old ache in her chest. Who was this man? Chris finished the roll, then bought the remaining two. "I'd like to talk," he said, gesturing to the small table by the window. "If you don't mind." Emma hesitated. This man represented everything that threatened her livelihood, and yet a sliver of curiosity tugged at her. What could he possibly want to discuss? What would you do? Would you trust the man trying to buy your world? If he seemed to be the only one who actually saw its worth. She nodded, he smiled. And at that exact moment, the rain outside began to fall, but neither of them noticed, because that conversation was about to change everything. Thank you for following along. Apologies for interrupting the story here, but we promise the next part gets even more intense. Before we continue, let me ask you, have you ever had to choose between protecting your past and reaching for a risky future? Do you believe someone with money and power can genuinely understand the struggles of someone who's built everything with their bare hands? Let us know in the comments and tell us where you're watching from. If this story has touched you even a little, don't forget to like and share. Your support keeps these stories alive. The rain drummed softly against the bakery windows, but inside, the air between Emma and Christopher was thick charged with something between tension and unspoken truths. Emma sat across from him, arms folded her back, stiff against the chair. She wasn't sure if she was more curious or furious. "You came to talk," she asked, her voice steady. "Then talk." Christopher leaned forward, elbows resting gently on the old oak table. "I didn't buy your building," he said, toying with the paper napkin. "I stopped the buyout." Emma blinked. "Would I blocked the acquisition contract this morning?" She stared at him, stunned. "Why would you do that? What do you even gain from this?" He didn't answer immediately. Instead, his eyes wandered to the framed photo on the bakery wall. A younger Emma, with her mother flowers smeared on their cheeks, both grinning as if the world didn't know what grief meant. "You're not the only one who lost someone here," he finally said, voice low. "My father and I used to come here every Sunday. Your mother, she'd always set aside an extra roll for us." No charge, Emma's breath caught. She remembered vaguely a tall man with tired eyes, a boy with glasses always clinging to his hand. Christopher nodded, reading her memory. She'd tell him, "This one's for the road." I didn't understand what that meant until I was older. She knew he was dying. There was a pause. My father passed 2 weeks later. Christopher said, "I never came back." Now it made sense why he had called the cinnamon roll home. Why his eyes had softened. Emma softened too. But then another thought crept in, one sharp enough to cut the moment open. "Are you telling me this so I'll trust you?" she asked. "Because if this is some guilt-driven charity case, I don't need your pity." Christopher's expression didn't flinch. "You're smart to be suspicious," he said. "But no, I'm here because I want to help. Not as a developer, as an investor." That word hit Emma like a warning bell. Investor, strings, conditions, control. "What's the catch?" she asked. "I want to partner with you," he said. "You run the bakery, I'll fund a renovation. No buyout, we share the profit." Emma's head spun. It was too fast, too convenient. But the offer, it was tempting. Could she finally breathe again? Could the bakery survive this storm? But just before she could respond, the bell above the door jingled again. Emma turned and froze. A woman walked in, tall, sleek, dressed in a designer trench coat soaked with rain, heels clicking like warning shots across the floor. She was everything this place wasn't: polished, cold, expensive, and she was looking directly at Christopher. "There you are," the woman said sharply. "I've been calling." Christopher stiffened. "Not now, Veronica." Emma instinctively stood up. "Who is she?" The woman smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. "I'm Veronica Ellis, his fiancée." The room went silent. Emma felt her stomach twist. Fiancée? Veronica sauntered in, eyeing the bakery like it was beneath her. "Chris, why are you wasting time in this pastry museum? Monarch already has plans for this block. We're weeks away from final approvals." "Not anymore," Christopher said coldly. "I told you I pulled the deal." Veronica's expression darkened. "You what?" Emma looked from one to the other, her voice barely a whisper. "Is she telling the truth?" Christopher hesitated. Just long enough, and that was enough. Emma backed away, heat rising to her cheeks. So you're still part of Monarch, still tied to the people who tried to take this place away from me? It's not what you think. Really, Emma's voice cracked because it feels like a setup. Some billionaire with a guilty conscience walks in, buys a couple rolls, feeds me a sob story, and then offers to partner with me, while his bride-to-be already has demolition plans in her handbag. Christopher stood. I didn't lie to you. Emma, maybe not, she said. But you didn't tell the whole truth either. Veronica smiled triumphantly. Smart girl, the air grew thick with the scent of betrayal. Outside, the storm had intensified. Rain slashed against the windows like knives. Christopher looked torn as something inside him breaking, but Emma had already begun clearing the table. We're closed, she said. He didn't move. Now slowly he walked to the door. Veronica followed smug and victorious, but before stepping out, Christopher turned back. You don't know everything yet. Emma, there's more to this story than you think. And with that, he vanished into the storm. Emma stood alone in the silence. Her heart was thudding, but not from sadness, from something deeper. Mistrust. Was he telling the truth? Was he trying to help? Or had she just played right into the hands of the people trying to erase her history? Would you believe him, or would you shut that door forever? We'll pause the story here. Apologies for the interruption, but what comes next will turn everything upside down. So let me ask you, have you ever been faced with an offer that seemed perfect only to discover it came from the very person who once hurt you? Do you think people like Christopher, wealthy, powerful, and conflicted, can truly change for the better? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Also, let us know where you're watching from. We love seeing our global community, and if this story has you hooked, please give it a like. It truly helps us continue bringing you more. The days that followed felt like a foggy dream Emma couldn't wake up from. Every time she walked past the window of her bakery, she half expected to see Christopher standing there waiting, but he didn't come back. Not after that stormy confrontation, not after the truth about Veronica shattered the fragile thread of trust they had started to build. Emma threw herself into her work-kneading dough at dawn, serving customers with a forced smile, pretending that everything inside her wasn't unraveling. The bakery survived for now, but the questions lingered in the shadows of every cinnamon roll, and behind every warm smile she offered. Had she made the right choice pushing him away, or had she slammed the door on something more than a business deal? Then one quiet morning, a letter arrived. No return address. Just her name in elegant cursive inside was a single page, Emma. You were right to question me. I should have told you the full truth. I was still tied to Monarch when I walked into your bakery that day. But that wasn't why I came in. I came because I missed my father. I came because your bakery is the last place I ever saw him smile. When I saw you crying by the window, I saw someone who refused to let go, and that stirred something in me. I didn't want to be the man who took your home away. I wanted to help you fight for it. I walked away from Monarch, from the money, from Veronica. I chose something else. I chose. This attached to the letter was a set of documents. Legal ones. Emma's hands trembled as she read them. Christopher had bought out Monarch's share of the block and then signed it over to a trust with her bakery listed as a protected historic site. It couldn't be torn down. Ever, her bakery was safe. No one could take it from her again. Later that week, while sweeping the front steps, Emma heard footsteps behind her. She turned and her breath caught. Christopher stood at the curb, dressed simply. No suit, no pretense. Just him. I wasn't sure if I should come, he said. You shouldn't have had to write a letter, she replied. You should have come back sooner. He nodded. I was afraid. There was a pause, long enough for the wind to carry the smell of fresh bread between them. So what now? He asked. Emma looked at the bakery. Then at him. You really gave all of it up, he nodded again. The money, the company, Veronica. None of it mattered anymore. Emma stared at him for a long moment, then stepped aside and opened the door. Then come in. We open in 10. You can help with the morning rush, he smiled, relieved, grateful, maybe even a little unsure. Aprons hanging on the back hook, she added already. Turning toward the kitchen, he followed her inside. And for the first time in years, the little bakery on the corner felt full again, not just of cinnamon and coffee, but of something deeper. Hope word spread fast through town. Some called it a miracle, others a love story, but Emma never labeled it. She just kept baking. Christopher never left. They didn't fall into romance overnight. It was slow, clumsy, full of awkward mornings and late-night talks over burnt pies and flour-dusted counters, but it was real. They rebuilt not just the bakery, but themselves. And one afternoon, while closing up, Emma turned to Christopher and asked, "Do you ever think about what would have happened if you didn't come back?" "All the time," he said. "And every time I do, I know I'd be living someone else's life." She smiled. Sometimes life breaks us down just so we can rebuild stronger. Sometimes a stranger who walks in for a pastry ends up rewriting your whole story. But tell me this, if someone hurt you once but came back changed, would you give them a second chance? And when life offers you a hand after you've been drowning, would you take it, or would pride keep you sinking? Thank you for staying with this story until the end. We're truly sorry for breaking the flow earlier, and we hope this final chapter touched your heart in some way. Now we want to hear from you. Do you believe in second chances when they come from unexpected places? Do you think people with power and wealth like Christopher can truly find redemption? Tell us in the comments. If you think this story deserves it, type no. 3 below. If it felt just okay, type no 2. And if it didn't quite meet your expectations, type no 1. Your feedback matters deeply. Let us know where you're watching from. We love seeing where our community is growing. And if this story moved you even just a little, please like, share, and send a heart to help us reach more people with stories that matter.